I'm sure right now, a mom listening who has just had a marital breakdown suddenly, just like you did, is now got a couple of kids and a mound of debt. What would you tell her to do first? Yeah.
Breathe, go inward and really get true to yourself and think about what's really, really important to you and focus on that. Take the small wins, hug your kids or your dogs if you don't have kids, because hopefully you have dogs. Then know that it will get better.
Mhm.
And it's interesting because I went through some of my old transformation weekend stuff. It was really cool to read because there was a lot of things there about forgive and play more and love more. And it was really cool to see that I can't remember when I stopped doing those things. Even though there still has been hard times, absolutely. Like the hard has not necessarily left, but
Yeah.
the way I feel about it has changed dramatically.
I ruined the internet this week. It's
You mean again?
again, my gorgeous, adorable husband was telling me that when he was a kid, his mom bought him He-Man, the action figure. And
Right.
then when they were at a toy store, he got She-Ra so that He-Man could have a girlfriend because he's always been a bit of a romantic at heart. And I was like, that is the sweetest story ever. And so I posted it on the internet. And then you all messaged me on Instagram to tell me that no, He-Man,
But Hira.
He-Man and She-Ra are twins. They're brother sister.
Yeah, ew.
That I know, ooh, is so the amount of chaos that caused on the internet.
He didn't ever know that. Like, he did not know that till you posted it. And then you got all of these people messaging you saying, hold on a second, they're
No,
brother sister.
I had about 30 people being like, I love your husband. He's so cute. He's so adorable, blah, 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 as always happens. Right. And then 3 He-Man stans who were like, just so you know. And I was like, oh no. So
But Jared did not know
he did
until
not
you
know.
told him like the other day. This entire time, his whole life, he's thinking, what a great service I've done for my He-Man. I brought him She-Ra. So what was his reaction when you told him
It was
that
not
they
good.
were twins?
We have not talked about it. I think he needs to book a therapy appointment and we will process it in due time. Today, we get to interview somebody else who's gotten the hell out of debt just to inspire you. Y'all love these episodes. We know you love these episodes. These are the most listened to episodes. So I thought I would introduce you to one of my favorite people today. Her name is Kim, and she got the hell out of debt quite a long time ago. I think she's paid off about $80,000, had a massive increase in her net worth, and I can't wait for you to meet her.
I have to admit that I did a little snooping this morning before we jumped online, and I went just to our Facebook community and I wanted to see how long you've been in there because I feel like I've seen your name pop up forever and ever and ever. And I went back and Facebook told me that you've been there for 6 years.
She's been in phase 3 a long time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's amazing. Okay, so how did you find Get the Hell Out of Debt? How did you find Erin? And how did you get to be part of our community way back then?
So I think I actually joined the Facebook community years after I had met Erin.
We met like literally 100 years ago.
Yeah.
You both look really good.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I heard about Erin through a friend of mine. I guess it was through Facebook, and I saw Erin's name. Then, as Erin started in on her get the hell out of debt stuff, then I guess something just resonated with me right away. Just the realness, the call it as it is. Yeah, so I got involved initially, I think, through some of the original get the hell out of debt programs before they were ever online, I think, even. So I originally went through the Get the Hell Out of Debt program in 2017, I think, and just have been following along since then.
Okay, so tell me about 2017. What shape were your finances in back then?
They were not great, but I guess part of the reason that I joined the Get the Hell Out of Debt program is I had already done a lot of work on my own. So 2011, 2012, I went through a divorce and was left with a whole load of living with the Joneses or whatever. Both my ex-husband and I had been living far beyond our means. And when we split, it was quite sudden, and we had to sell our house as quickly as we could. We lost money on that, so we still owed money on the mortgage. So I came out of that in 2011, 2012 with consumer debt and my house debt with probably about $72,000 worth of debt. I put on my big girl panties in 2012 and decided that it was time to make some changes as I was raising and supporting my kids on my own. And yeah, so all the stuff we talk about in regards to when you get the calls all the time from the debt collectors. I had a background in working in corrections. I fought back when they called.
Most people, curl up into the fetal position,
Yeah.
when those phone calls come.
And I hated it, but at the same time, I just challenged them. I said, look, I'm trying to feed my kids right now. You can't take blood from a stone. Like, I will give you whatever I can. And then I went back and negotiated with all my creditors and brought my debt down a ton. I refused to take money from my family to do it. And I just said I was going to get it organized and get it done.
There's lots of people in this situation, right? And when the collectors call, they don't realize that some of this can be negotiated because the collectors bought the debt, usually from the institution that you initially owed. And so you do have the ability to negotiate and settle for pennies on the dollar. So what were some of your tactics? Because I know I get asked this all the time, and I have a few tricks up my sleeve, but what did you do in order to get those debts reduced?
I think I just tried to stay level-headed and not get emotional about it. Like, I really just tried to tell them the facts. Like,
Because
you
they
weren't
get
going to get it.
psychological with you, like they manipulate you.
Oh, they really do. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just laid it straight out for them and said, I'm not going to do this. You're not going to get the money from me. No matter what you say, there is no money to give you. And I am going to feed my children before I give you money. Like, that is the way it goes. I went a little bit mama bear on them, probably, because it was my kids at stake, right? And I had mouths to feed and kids to support. And so I just really honed in, and they eventually asked, what can you pay? And so I ran the numbers and I said, this is what I can pay.
Mm-hmm.
And so eventually they agreed to that. And I just stayed really strong in who I was and what my priorities were. Also knowing that I owed money and needed to pay that off.
I'm so proud of you. Like, our kids are more important. Also, though, here's what I want to know. Who even has these jobs? Who goes out and is like, you know what I'm going to be when I grow up? I'm going to be a debt collector. Like, that takes a special, strange kind of human, I think, to do those jobs, to make those phone calls and call on these moms that are trying to put food in their kids' mouths.
And how you sleep at night is what I want to know. When you're saying those things to people, like, I don't understand.
Yeah. In my experience, they are often people who they themselves are struggling financially. And so it's a job you typically would take out of desperation, not a job you take out of aspiration. And so I think the tricky part is they're on the inside. They know exactly how you feel, which is why they're so good at manipulating, because they know those techniques. But they're also in a tough position. So I don't want you to see them as an evil monster, Carrie. I want you to recognize that they're also human, and they're probably just doing the best they can also. But it is a really, really tough industry. And it's tough because, even, as Kim's talking about this, I'm not somebody who wants you to dodge a debt that you owe, because when we say we're going to do something, we want to do it. And it feels gross and out of integrity when suddenly we can't. But when you can't, like Kim couldn't, you can't. And so that's when Kim took the stand and was like, no, this isn't happening right now. I never intended for this to be the situation. When I borrowed the money, I was in a different place and we were in different financial circumstances. And so based on how things are now, I'm really sorry, but I'm feeding my kids and we're going to figure this out in a different way. And so it's really important to recognize, like, this isn't about getting out of owing money. This is about getting back on your feet, which Kim has done so flawlessly and executed so beautifully. So here's what we have to remember is anything that you agree to with a debt collector, you need to get it in writing before you pay. It's a lot easier to negotiate with a debt collector when you're really far behind. So if you've been making little payments along the way, you're going to have a harder time negotiating. Take that information as you want to take it. But the further in the hole you are, the further your credit's ruined, to be honest, to be frank, the easier it's going to be to negotiate. So don't be paying them little bits and then saying you can't pay them. Got to be really clear about what you can pay. And then if they make an agreement with you, like let's say you owe $1,000 to a department store and you absolutely cannot do it, but you think you might be able to scrape together $100, then get it in writing that $100 will settle the debt completely and in full. And when they email that to you, that agreement, then send them the $100. And then double check a month later, 2 months later, that it's off your credit or it's been, shown as paid on your credit. So just like lots of little things like that become really important, because we have to remember most people who are in collections are in a victim state, meaning we are now at the mercy of these creditors who are coming after us, and we feel terrible about it. And something awful has happened to us financially, and so we are struggling. But you have to still be in control of your finances. And if you are going to turn this around, you almost have to, like Kim says, put your big girl panties on, get your little whip out, and you're like, listen, back off. Like, this is what's happening. This is what I've got. And still continue to work and do the best you can so that you can get ahead again in the future. Now, we've often told people who they get completely out of debt and they still feel bad because they settled the collections. I've had people who've said, I owed, $1,000 and I only paid $100, and I've always felt really bad about that. But at the time, that was all I could do. It's like, great. Well, now you get to make a $900 donation to a charity, in order to kind of restore that feeling of integrity in you. And so that's a way you can make good on it later on down the road, if that is something that's bothering you. But some people just feel like, you know what, it was a mistake. I learned from it. Off we go. And that's also equally as good.
And I think the other thing I would add is, so I did that with my creditors. I think that's a great point around getting that in writing. The other thing I did is, after I made those payments, I asked for a statement of account, and I asked for that in writing.
Just so the listener knows that when you get that statement of account in writing after it's all paid off, you keep it for 7 years. You've got to keep it for 7 years. Okay, sorry, keep talking.
And then I made sure that it was taken off of my credit rating, and I knew that I had about 7 years to get things back in order. Mm-hmm. And I checked this last year, and I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh my gosh, this is me now? Like, holy smokes.
I'm a new woman.
Who is this person?
Credit makeover. Yeah, it's usually about 2 years before your credit will start to recover, but definitely 7 years later, it'll drop right off. It's like what was that Mass and Gill commercial? Fresh and breezy. Your credit is fresh and breezy now.
Fresh and breezy.
Now I'm picturing Kim running through a field.
Yeah, she is.
With wildflowers and the wind in her hair.
In a dress flowing through the air.
Do you want more? I know you do. Why wouldn't you want more?
More what? What do I want more of?
More of this. Come hang out in the online course, Forget the Hell Out of Debt. The link is in the description. You just got to click it, sign up, and we'll see you in there.
Okay, let's go back to when these guys are calling you. What steps did you take then to start paying off your debt?
I'm a big pen and paper gal, so I had everything tracked down. I had a little book that I would write exactly what I owed, exactly what I paid, when I paid it. And I would just really try and take any money that I could and get it on that debt. Yeah. And I had some money that was locked away in savings, so that was helpful, but I didn't touch that. I was just using what I could in order to pay. I think I got a second part-time job just to try and pay down as much as I could. And so it took me solidly about 4 years to get the big chunk of debt. And a lot of that was things like the house. And I just got rid of everything I possibly could. My expenses, I cut them down. One of my things has always been to take the kids on a holiday every summer. And so we did road trips. We went back to see family. I think I bought a tent trailer at one point, and we camped, and we had some amazing memories that way. The kids didn't necessarily feel the heat. I was really fortunate to have extremely supportive family who helped with, some of the extracurricular stuff with the kids so that I could focus on paying down debt. I'm extremely grateful for that, but it allowed me to really focus. As a young person, I was never good with money, right? I'm a spender. That's what I am. And so it was really challenging to just focus on the things I needed to focus on, but I was determined to make that right. And I think the biggest thing for me was, what was I teaching my kids? Mm-hmm. What was I showing my kids? And how could I teach them to do things differently?
Mm-hmm. This was a really beautiful, I think, example of motherhood, because I remember those days, and I remember there was lots of challenges. and you literally were doing everything. You were doing both parenting roles, you were working, you were raising the kids through some challenging times with some challenging experiences, and you've got such amazing, amazing kids. But you always had your priorities in the right order, I felt like. Did that come naturally, or was that like a survival thing for you where you just were like, I gotta look after these kids?
I mean, that was always my priority. That was my mom's priority. I had a really good role model with that. And yeah, I did the same thing. That was my instinct. To me, that was the only choice. They were a priority, and that came first.
That's awesome. Because I think sometimes when people are under financial stress, you just can't, like, you have to prioritize family first. And so sometimes people make the mistake of thinking, well, I just have to work a few more shifts, or I just have to clear this financial hurdle. But doing it in that order is never going to serve you financially and or relationally either. So I just have always been so proud of how you handled that. When you are thinking back on those days, if you could give, I mean, there's, I'm sure right now, a mom listening who has just had a marital breakdown suddenly, just like you did, is now got a couple of kids and a mound of debt. What would you tell her to do first?
Breathe.
Mhm.
Go inward and really get true to yourself and think about what's really, really important to you and focus on that. Take the small wins, hug your kids or your dogs if you don't have kids, because hopefully you have dogs. Know that it will get better.
You, throughout the whole process, you had a major career transition. Was that after you paid off the debt or before?
It was in the middle of. So I'm glad
You're
you bring this
laughing.
up.
Do we not want to talk about it? Are we
No,
not?
no. I'm laughing because in my head, as I was not sleeping last night, thinking about all the things that I wanted to talk about, this was one of them. I had a major career transition. So I was in a job where I had to travel a lot. With the way things were going with my kids, I needed to change that. And so my employer, at one point, I went to them and they allowed me to not travel, but still do the job I was doing. I got a new supervisor, and the new supervisor came in and wanted to overhaul everything.
Mm.
And one of the things I was doing was training people how to be supervisors. And one of the key things is really funny because one of the statistics that we talk about is that 90% of people leave jobs because of their supervisor.
Wow.
Yeah.
That does not surprise me, but it's still fascinating to hear.
Yeah. Yeah. 90%. It's a huge percentage. So
wait a second. As I'm thinking back on my life, every single
Yeah.
time I left was because of a supervisor.
yeah.
I had jobs that I loved,
Yeah,
and a
absolutely.
supervisor, Carrie's like, yep, I remember every single time. Erin has
Yeah.
cried a lot of
Yeah.
tears over this.
But also
And-
same, like you said, who doesn't that affect if it's 90%?
Yeah.
Okay,
Like
if you're a
that-
supervisor, you better be listening to everything Kim tells you right now. People's
So-
livelihoods are at stake, supervisor.
Exactly. So it was interesting because I loved my job. Like I was in a job that I absolutely loved, and it was not the right job that I needed to be in for my family and where my family was at the time. And so that was really challenging. And because I was doing all the work otherwise, right? Like the work about having priorities and figuring out goals and doing all this like really big stuff. And my family was not in a place where I could do that at that time. And so I jokingly one day was talking to my brother and I said, "Hey, so when are you going to make me a job in the family business?" Totally joking. And he was like, "Well, actually," and I was like, "Oh no," like that whole be careful what you wish for. Exactly.
I didn't mean it.
Exactly. So I was in a great job with great benefits and all these, great things. And I panicked and I phoned Erin and I said, "What do I do? What do I do?" And she's like, of course, Erin says, "Well, what do you think you should do? What's the best decision for you?" And I'm like, "Oh God, don't make me make this decision." So I went from doing what I love and I was training and traveling and doing all these, facilitating the things that I loved to do. And I was offered a job with my family business, which are, and this is going to be lovely, but they're doorknob salesmen.
No, but Carrie, wait till you see these doorknobs. Like I'm talking like luxury. You're the reason I'm obsessed with knobs. I changed all these knobs on the dresser behind me because I fell in love with knobs after learning about your families. And this is not like her quality. Her quality is like if you were to walk into like a luxury home, the finer details of everything, like,
Yeah.
wow, hinges, door, like,
It's totally house jewelry. It's beautiful.
Okay, wait, how does this become a family business? How do knobs turn into a family business?
I've been in the industry forever.
My dad was in security and then got into door hardware. So we are manufacturer's agent for high-end decorative hardware. So that's a fancy way to say doorknobs.
Cool.
And then I came into the role, and then it also gave my brother sort of a right-hand person to be able to confide in and trust, and another senior manager that we could work together, which he was kind of running the show on his own at that time. So it was great. It's been a huge transition to go from something I am so passionate about to trying to find the passion in my job. And a lot of times I'm just doing what needs to be done because it's a family business, right?
Mhm.
So I had to have a really big shift a few years ago. What happened is I couldn't keep someone else's schedule anymore in my job because of what was going on with my family. And so I needed to be there to be able to support my kids. And that was unpredictable as to what that was going to look like. And so he was willing to create something that could let me get the work done when I could get the work done. Yeah, you're going to make me cry. Don't cry.
Well, I don't know. I don't know why I'm crying. I just remember how hard that was. And I know Carrie and I are both people who put our kids first, and we would all jump in front of a train for our kids. And I just remember how difficult that decision was for you. And so to have your brother be able to be like, because you're an amazing worker on top of everything else. And normally nobody calls me out on my crying, so I can just cry anonymously behind the screen on the podcast and no one knows, but you called me out.
Now I'm crying.
Me too. It's like we all need a Kleenex.
Yeah.
I just think by choosing the family first, everything else will fall into alignment. And had you not made that decision, right? Imagine the stress of trying to make a go with that supervisor situation and, being chained to the desk or being forced to travel or whatever in order to earn an income. So I just felt all these feelings suddenly for your brother who I've never met. But also for you for making that decision, because I know you're not maybe necessarily passionate about doorknobs, but I am. So
Well, I have become more passionate. I will say I have become more passionate about decorative
I think we know what I'm
hardware.
going to do in retirement. I'm going to go work for Kim.
Yeah, maybe.
Be a doorknob salesman.
Yeah. So, I mean, that was the thing. I am so grateful. I mean, my family has always been incredible, and that has been just such a huge gift. So, yeah, so I'm eternally grateful for that opportunity, and it has brought us so much closer. And yeah, I did have a huge career shift. And so what I do now is if I do side hustles or other types of work, I do it because that's where I feel my passion.
Amazing.
I love that so much.
Okay, so you pay off this debt, this gaping, festering wound of debt that you paid off.
First, tell us, like, how much was it? How much total have you paid off?
About $80,000.
Oh,
wow.
That's no small feat. You've had a massive net worth shift also.
I have.
We should talk about.
Yeah. So, I mean, the key for me was having money taken out of my account before, when it went in there. So I have automatic withdrawals. Yeah. So those go, and I don't even see them now. And so that wealth was just building. I have been completely out of debt since pre-COVID and haven't been back in debt, which has felt amazing. Are the decisions hard still? Yes. Is budgeting hard still? Absolutely. Yeah. There are still things I need to fine tune. There are still things, and
us too. Every human ever. Yeah. It's an ongoing practice.
So my net worth increased by a lot. I lost my mom last year, who was just such an incredible, incredible woman. And so I did have an inheritance, but I made sure that my net worth had at least tripled before I gathered that, before the inheritance came into.
Well, with a 485% increase in your net worth, you are doing very well no matter what, because I think it's really easy for a lot of people to hit phase 3 and then kind of take their foot off the gas, because there always feels like there's a sense of urgency when it comes to debt payoff. So the fact that you were like, listen, I know my own psychology. I know that if I don't have this money come out of the account off the top or pay myself first, and I have to rely on myself to make that decision every month, I'm going to be forced to make a tough choice, because if we are a person who loves spending and we've got a spend block, as you've identified, then when I have to choose between a retirement that seems like it's a far way off, or I'm not really worried about today because I'm doing work that I'm passionate about, or a new Aviator Nation sweatshirt in my case, right? It's like, oh, but it's on sale. Oh, I don't want to have to make that choice. So the fact that you set up systems that automate for you while you allow yourself to learn is so critical. Because what a lot of people do is they think, oh, I'm going to learn everything first and then I'm going to start to invest. And that's dangerous, because we need to get into the market as soon as possible, as early as possible in our lives, and allow the compounding to happen while we learn, so that we can make tweaks and adjustments as we go in order to grow that net worth even more. But you're doing absolutely wonderful right now.
Well, what was so cool is on my taxes this year. So for the first time in my life, I maxed out my RSPs, and I got
Woo-hoo!
my and I got the biggest return I've ever had. And I was like, oh my God, like here's my money working for me. Like this is all.
Erin's gonna start doing a dance.
And I already have my number for next year, and I've already started putting away for next year. And one of our transformation weekends years ago, we made a list of 100 things
Yeah.
to be, do, have, or experience. So
Yes.
I went through my list. Over 50% I have done. One of my goals was at one point, to buy myself a nice car, but I was fortunate that my mom gifted me her car before she passed. It's a beautiful, sensible car, and so
it probably like smelled like your mom when you got it. Like, how
I'm pretty
wonderful.
grateful I get to hang out with her all the time with that. Yes.
Yeah.
But I do have money saved. So now I'm buying my retirement vehicle, which is an old VW van. And the money's sitting there waiting to find the right vehicle. And that's so cool to just be like, yeah, it's there and waiting. And this year, I had a very dear friend that was so helpful over the last few years with my parents. We've had lots of trials and tribulations over the years with my mom's health and then her passing. And I wanted to take my bestie on a trip to just say thank you. And so a month ago, we booked to go to Bali in February.
Oh, wow.
Oh, I cannot wait.
It's a yoga and music retreat with one of our favorite musicians.
I think Carrie's inviting us along on this trip. I think
I
we're
was
coming.
already thinking, I was like, I wonder how Erin and I can also come on this.
Are we allowed to just lay in Savasana and then
Okay. Totally, you can. Yeah.
Tell me some more. Did she know that you were going to gift her this, or was it a surprise? Tell me about all of that.
So she didn't know. So we on a whim booked the trip, and we booked the retreat first. She said, oh, we have to start thinking about airfare and da-da-da. And I said, well, I'm going to take care of that. And she was like, what? I said, I'm going to take care of that. That's what we're going to do.
What a gift.
What a gift. You know what that feels like, Erin. Erin does that all the time. She has gifted me many trips because that's what she loves to do. And like, I hope to be that type of friend one day to be able to do that. But what an amazing gift. Both of you are great gift givers, obviously. That is such a cool thing. You guys are going to have the best time.
I know,
have a good time.
Excited. Yeah. So that's, just to have the ability to be able to do some of the things that I want to be able to do. In all of this, over the last 11 years, my current partner has been amazing because he's completely the opposite of what I am financially. So that has been, between Erin and my partner, that's been a great gift.
I'm in a lot of bedrooms. I am actually in a lot of bedrooms.
I know you get around.
I do.
I actually wrote that down, Kim. I was like, I need to ask her if she has a new partner and what that relationship is like. So because
look at her, she's beaming right now. She's beaming.
Because of what you've already gone through. And like you said, that divorce, that was a big deal. And that was a huge turning point for you in your finances and with money. So did you have, like, from the beginning, a different mindset coming into a new relationship? How did you handle it?
Coming into our relationship, we both were like, we're going to do things differently than both of us had been through rocky past relationships, and we both had kids. And I remember being like, I don't know. Like, we took things really slow. We made a lot of mistakes, and we kept going, and we kept just trying to figure it out. We're still trying to figure it out most days. But I think when we got past, like, for me anyway, when we got past that point of just thinking every time that there was a hiccup that we were going to break up, it was, how are we going to work this out? Like, how are we going to get through this? Rather than like, just that was really cool to get past that point of
Mhm.
just knowing that this is the person I'm going to spend my life with. And
Well,
yeah,
dating has changed so much since, when
My
you were married first, because
heart was fluttering just there. I got a little heart flutter because that is such a pivotal point in all
yeah,
relationships is when you're past the point, like you said, of you're not going to break up. You just have to figure out how you're going to get through the
yeah.
next bump.
dating today is very throwaway culture. It's very takeout food, right? So you look through the app and you're like, here's what I like, here's what I don't like, here's my deal breakers. You go on one date, you're like, nope, next, 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 next. So then you get into a relationship with somebody and you're always still looking for what's wrong instead of
Mhm.
what's available to you to create out of the relationship. And so the fact that you got to that point and
Yeah.
really then we're like, okay, well, we're here no matter what. Like that's a beautiful place to build from.
Yeah.
So
He would say things and I would say, I am with the person that speaks like my inside voice. And I'm like, but he's saying it outside loud. I'm like, yes.
I love that. I love
So
that.
yes, so it's very cool. Yeah. And so lots of teaching, lots of learning from each other. And one of the big things, again, just another gift that has come out of all of this is with my mom's passing. My mom, I mean, she was an incredible teacher and role model. I have learned so much in the last year and a bit with her passing. Her estate was so meticulously laid out.
Oh, I love her.
Oh,
I love her.
Oh,
And
the way
like
she
just,
loved you through that. Oh my
oh, my
gosh,
brother and
that's such
I
an act
have
of love.
been like I have learned so much. And so now my partner has seen that. And so now we're trying to support his parents to do similar. But yeah, so that was a big, big thing. I mean, my mom had, we always knew it was so funny because my mom always had this thing and her dad had it as well, where there was the binder that she had that had everything in it. And we always knew where that was. And there was the file folder, the green file folder that we had to know where it was. And she always said that the second that they told us that she wasn't coming back, we had to go to the safety deposit box, get the key, go to the safety deposit box. She had life insurance money that was brought to us right away so that if there were any initial costs for the funeral, for things like that, we were covered. There was money there that would cover us off if there were any expenses in between. And then we knew where everything was going from her home, and we were able to gift so many people so many things. It just, everything, like her binder has statements from every single card that she ever had. I have it in my drawer here. She had a picture, a photograph, like a Xerox copy of every single card, like her air miles, her Save on
Love
More
her.
card, her like all those extra points cards she had laid out. And this is who you have to contact. And here's the number. And here's
wow.
like, it was unbelievable. But
Wow.
everything, like here's the lawyer you have to call, here's the insurance agents that you need to speak to, like it was incredible. And so to me, I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is a course in how to lay out your will, your like everything. It was such a gift, such
Mhm.
a gift.
We've been talking
Huge gift.
about wills recently on the
Mhm.
podcast because Erin found a company that she really loves to work
Mhm.
with when it comes to wills. And it's amazing how many people, though, are not set up for this success. I just feel like this is a huge testament to your mom and how much she loved you, that
Yeah,
she took the time to have all of this just ready for you, and that you knew
absolutely.
forever that you just had to go to the safety deposit box. Like that was just ingrained in you, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Sounds like an incredible woman. That's worn off on you too, Kim, I can tell.
Well,
I
I have a
just
lot of work to do now. I have to get all that stuff started.
You
Like
need to get your
I'm like,
safety deposit
I gotta
box.
get the binder and
I
the
was going to
green
say, where's your
folder.
binder, Kim? Where's your binder?
just
So yeah,
realized that I've not done anything with my scene points. So I now have to Xerox my scene card so I can leave my scene points to carry
correct.
because it's going to be a sad day to
All of
forget.
those scene points, Erin. Let's not let them go to waste. Come on.
Exactly. Exactly.
Kim, I want to ask you two more things.
Right.
First, tell me what your future looks like. What does your retirement look like? What are you planning and working towards? That
So
van, first of all, right? That
yeah, the
factors.
van is coming. I just can't find the right one. So me and my dogs and my partner and jumping in the van and sitting in the mountains somewhere, or a
Yes.
van down by the river, either or, whatever. I think travel for sure. I've sort of shifted and taken some trips with my daughter over the last few years, with my friends, with my partner and I leave for Mexico next week.
Ooh,
So we're really trying to just make ourselves a priority. My retirement, I don't know what it's going to look like yet, but I'm confident that it will be whatever it needs to be. So I will likely work for a long time. I will likely just keep doing things that I love, whether it's work or volunteering, for a long time, just because that's what fills my bucket. And I love supporting families. So it's interesting because the whole question around, what am I going to be when I grow up? And I knew that there's that thing about finding your calling in life. And I actually, on a hike this year, I actually found it this year. I found what I wanted to do. And so that was really cool. That moment of saying, okay, this is, I think, what I'm made for. This is what I am here for. So now
What
it's
is
just
it?
about
yeah.
making that a reality. It's about creating spaces for families who are struggling. So
Mm.
creating spaces where they can get away, where they can treat themselves, where they can support each other, where they can indulge and just, yeah, get their energy back.
Is this something you plan to create or you want to work with someone that's already has a space? Like you're dreaming this
No,
space up?
yeah. And it's for the families, it's for the parents. I think there's never enough services for kids, absolutely. But it's about just connecting parents with each other to know, because it is so isolating when families are struggling
Mhm.
and you feel like you're the only one. And there's such stigma attached to so many things around mental health and substance use and addiction, and so much judgment in so many areas. And so I want to give families an opportunity to escape that and connect and recharge and know that they are enough and that their kids will do what they're going to do and they will be ready to change what they're doing when they're ready. And we can be the guide from the side rather than being the sage on the stage trying to control all of that. And we can take care of ourselves while our kids are getting better.
We need that on a t-shirt.
So
I'm gonna
yeah,
get
so
us t-shirts. Yours can say "Sage from the stage trying to control everything," and mine will
Yes.
say "Guide from the side."
Yep. Each other.
that's the evolution of my, like, I came from a place of trying to control, and I'm a recovering control addict and still working on it on a day-to-day basis. So just trying to trust the cosmos that my kids are going to do whatever they're going to do, and I have given them the tools that they need in order to get through that.
Kim, I
Yeah.
love that your money story has led you to this too. This is so great that you're now like in a space where this is the life that you can create for yourself and for all of those families that are going to benefit from what this is that you're putting together. How cool is that? Okay, last question. Tell
Mhm.
me what Erin and Get the Hell Out of Debt has meant to you to get you to this point.
It has been so transformational. Like, it just truly has allowed me to live a life that I didn't think I could live. I didn't have the confidence in myself. I didn't think I could get through it. And to be able to support my kids the way that I didn't even know I needed to support them, like, and to do that, and yeah, just to be able to have the stability now to be able to make choices that I never thought I was going to be able to make. I am so eternally grateful, Erin, so eternally grateful for just you and who you are and your heart, because to me that is the biggest piece of everything, is just to lead with your heart, and all the other pieces will fall into place as long as you're doing what you're meant to do. And I just keep showing up and sing Erin's praises all the time and just believe in the work. And it's so important to do. And I think that's the piece that my mom has left me, is just the proof in the pudding of all the things I've heard Erin talk about. And I'm now living on the other side of that, and so grateful. And to know that it's not easy. Like, I think sometimes when we talk about phase 3, that it's easy and, it feels like, oh, all the work's done, and it's not. It continues every single day.
I didn't know I was going to need tissues. I don't know why I don't just have a box of tissues sitting at my desk, because practically every time we talk to somebody, their story at some point is emotional for them. It's emotional, and I get emotional because you could just have your lip quiver a teeny bit and I have tears.
Well, I think people don't realize how much debt and finances bleed into all areas of our life. And as you know, I don't just teach like, here's the basics of money. It's like, no, here's how it all integrates with your whole life. And she is somebody who, from the very beginning, from way back when I met her, I just have always loved and looked up to, because she just has such a really beautiful, humble way of walking through the world and serving other people. She's really remarkable.
When I was snooping at her Facebook, like I said that I did before we talked today, one of my favorite pictures that she posted in our community was when she paid off her debt, and she held up her credit card and she gave it the middle finger and took a picture and posted it. I was like, oh, I already know you're our people.
I love her.